This year, we have chosen to delve into the annual international theme, Fault Lines, Lignes de faille in French, from a particularly crucial angle, that is mental health. It's important to acknowledge that mental health is not a distant concept, but a reality that affects us all. Whether it's facing our own mental health struggles, supporting a loved one who is facing through a difficult time, who is going through a difficult time, or simply gaining a better understanding of these conditions. There is no shame of acknowledging the existence of mental illness. The more we listen, seek help, and support each other, the sooner we can embark on a journey towards recovery and lead balanced lives for ourselves and with others. For me, mental health also transcends mere medical terminology. It permeates every aspect of our lives, influencing our relationships, emotions, and aspirations. As a woman, within this society, within my family, and as the director of this institution and previous ones, I have witnessed firsthand the emotional and mental challenges faced by many individuals, both here in Nepal and in France. However, I firmly believe that mental health extends beyond psychological suffering. It encompasses well-being, personal development, and the management of our emotions and relationships. Tonight, we have the opportunity to explore these various dimensions of mental health. First, we will move by poignant interviews conducted by Eric Chandra Shrestha, where we will hear the courageous stories of those who have shared their experiences. My sincere gratitude goes out to each of them for their bravery and openness. Following, we will engage in a profound and enriching discussion led by Ranju Darshana and our distinguished panelists whose names will be introduced shortly after the video. I would like to express my deep gratitude to the Institut Français de Paris for their invaluable support, which enables us to offer this event free of charge and open to all. I would also like to extend a warm thanks to all those involved in organizing this evening. A special acknowledgement to Manon Jean for her continuous support and dedication across 3 nights of ideas now. I also want to thank Amélis for her commitment during her service civic this year, as well as Suresh Casey for his technical contribution tonight. Although Ambassador of France to Nepal, Mr. Gilles Boubao, is unable to join us tonight, we are fortunate to have several members of the embassy with us. Here. Mr. Boubao charges his interest support for this diverse exploration of mental health, and he sends his sincere regrets for his absence. He would have loved to be here with us. After the discussion, we will invite you to continue our exchanges over a drink and a little buffet prepared by our wonderful team of Le Bistro. Voilà. Together, let us transform this evening into a moment of openness, understanding, and personal growth. Thank you.
So my name is Rachana. I am a singer-songwriter, and I write my emotions, I pen down my feelings, and through my music and lyrics and compositions, I I advocate about mental health. People might think that someone's too intense for talking about these sort of emotions and issues, but it's not. We have to be out there, we have to talk out loud, sing out loud. Definitely people come to me, my listeners come to me, and they say that and my music, not me necessarily, but my music has helped them a lot. And they did not even realize that they should be feeling those things, and they did not even realize that music could be an outlet to feel and express those emotions. There's stigma, there's taboo of being afraid of mental health and talking about it. Especially, I think what there should be is it starts from home, of course, it starts from school, and every school should have a good mental health counselor where they can go and figure things out, because too many people, they don't even know that they're going through it. All of us, we need to unlearn and relearn about these things. The teachers, they need training, the students, they need counseling, and that's the main way to go. First step is that public awareness. Maybe I'm a little privileged in that point, and I have that mindset that every person should. It's not the end of, it's not the end of the world if you are mentally unstable. It's not. We should always give chances to those people, whether it be professionals or teachers or students or musicians or anyone who's going through it. And I personally feel like I don't like the judgments that there is. It should always be eliminated, and however we can, it starts from ourselves. I think that mental health mostly is about self-care. It's not about whether you're completely in the dark or completely in the night. Nobody is completely in the light. Like that's a misconception of life. Life is all about embracing the both and then navigating, because nobody gave us the brochure to life, and we're just navigating it through. But talking and or singing or playing or writing, being creative, that helps a lot. That helped me a lot. And I feel like these very deep issues, I hope that they get resolved one by one, because we have, as I'm saying, like, I am privileged, you are privileged, but we go 1 hour from here or half an hour from here, we go to a drive, and then we get to a completely different world where they don't have that capacity or the privilege or the knowledge even to seek or know about all these matters. Yeah.
My name is Kamla Podel. I'm a Nepalese woman. I started my life with a great misfortune. My stepfather sold me for some money to the child traffickers, and I had to spend about 5 to 6 years of my life in the brothel house. And eventually, when I grew up, I realized this is not a good place to be. So I ran away from the brothel house and started living on my own. I was about 11 years of age by then, and I had no memories of my family. So I could not come back to Nepal to my family. I started working in churches, in the roadside eateries, to make life possible for me, survival possible for me. All this stress had its effect on my mental health, and by the age I was 14 or 15, I had mental health issues. I did not know it's a mental health issue. I used to wonder why this is happening to me, why this is happening to me. Breathing hassles, anxiety, sleeplessness, all these symptoms were there. But at that point of time in Asia, the science, medical science was not that developed to find out why these symptoms are appearing. It was like some people said, I'm lazy, that's why this is happening. Though it was not being lazy, it was an actual medical problem, but it was disregarded because there was not, the science of psychiatry was not that well developed in Nepal at that point of time. Even in Asia, it was not that developed. I came back to Nepal when I was about 17 years of age. I started working as a tourist guide here, but wrangling with my mental health issues all the while. One fine day, some known people asked me to take a tourist to the Tatopani, carried their bag and their children with me, and they went to Tatopani with me. Police raid happened and they wanted to check the bag I was carrying. That bag had narcotics, but police caught me, not the tourist, because bag was found on me.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I was sent to prison, and without any trial, without anything, because the police said she's a mad woman. I mean, this is the kind of prejudice and stigma everyone had, that police, just because I had mental health issues, they decided then and there itself that the bag belongs to me. And I stayed in prison in Nepal, in Kathmandu, for about 8.5 years. My mental health issues became more and more pronounced. More anxiety and uncomfortable in talking to new people and all. Everything happened. Everyone in the prison used to call me Baula. Baula means person mad. Very derogatory term for people having mental health issues. The doctor in the prison could not diagnose it as a problem. They said maybe I'm deliberately doing it so that I can be released early.
Okay.
So in the prison I stayed for about 8.5 years, and thereafter I was released from the prison back into the streets. This time I did not have money or job with me, and my mental health was very, very badly devastated. I could not think properly, rationally, and I was like a medical zombie. People will come and ask me questions, why are you sitting here, why are you sitting here? But I used to think they're all my enemies. They don't want to help me. They want to create more complications. So I used to look at everyone with suspicion. But eventually one day, when I was about 9 months in the street, 10 months in the street, one fine day, people from Koshish came. And as usual, I was very rude to them because I thought they are just there to create problems for me. But they were so professionally trained people. They handled me very, very comfortably, very, very nicely, and they won my trust. And they said, we will take you to a place where you can stay, you can have food, and it's very, very safe place for women. So I was initially reluctant, but then I realized I have no other option. I have to go with them. At least they will give me food. So I reached Koshish Center for Women, and there they said, you have shower first and then we give you food. So that's how it started, the new journey. The organization was very nice and kind, and I found home away from home. And for the first time in my life, I realized that I can have a home. Medicines they were giving me, counseling they gave me, breathing exercises they taught me, and all that. After about 10 months, 11 months in the center, I recovered at the threshold levels. And since I had no family, no place to go to, so Matrika sir, the CEO, the executive director of the Koshish, he offered me job at Koshish itself for sensitization and awareness about Koshish to the people. So I came to a position where I could help others the way I was helped. And I like that very much. That God has given me a chance to return back to the society what I receive from the society. So I love my job very much. I feel very blissful when I help other women because I know how it feels, because I was in that state once. So now these days I'm working as a program officer, sensitization and awareness. I try to go to the government offices carrying self-advocacy campaigns, and I go to people telling them mental health issues are just as normal as other diseases. There's no need to stigmatize it or to get prejudice against it, and certainly it's not a witchcraft. But Nepalese society is very orthodox, and in the villages, remote areas, till today, people, the older generations believe that mental health issues are like a witchcraft. So it's very challenging to go and convince them that it's just as normal as cancer and cardiac diseases. So it's not a big thing. It should not be stigmatized. It should not be prejudiced against. And people should come out and openly declare, yes, I have a mental health issue, but I'm leading a normal life.
Hi, my name is Irina Giri, and I am, I think, 31 years old. Let's say 31. And I'm an artist. I think since I was, I suppose, 15, 16 years old, I've been struggling with different manifestations of mental illness, whether it's depression or like deep anxiety, and to the point of not functioning. And it is ongoing, so that is my link with mental health issues. Because I grew up in a boarding school, and that was not very easy for me. So my means of coping with that is to obsessively just hide under academics, like study, or like overperform, and so that I didn't have to address how difficult it was adapting to the hostel life. So when I was 15 or 16 years old, and this was nearing the SLC, which is like one of the big exams, I really took that very seriously. But at the same time, my father got sick around that time. So that pattern of obsessing over my studies was interrupted by this family emergency. And I think that's when that delicate shell that I had crafted, like, kind of cracked open, and all the problems started emerging, because I could no longer hold on to studying because I had this very intense family situation that I had to be a part of. And then I could literally feel my mind being torn into these two places. And then that just cracked me up, and I couldn't function anymore in that hostel. Like, my mind was constantly in a frenzy. I couldn't formulate sentences, but at the same time I felt the pressure to study for my exams, but my mind was not working. It was so scary to be around people, but then it was equally scary and heavy to be with myself. I think ultimately it was just like extracting myself from the hostel and then having my whole family be with me, and then slowly, as time passed, because I spent more time with my family, the atmosphere softened a little bit, and I felt like, okay, I've come out of it. And then I went to Canada, and then the first 2 years were amazing there. But you never know when that thing comes back again. And like, I had to make decisions about my studies, and at the same time my father got sick again. So again, I cracked open and I couldn't function there. And this was in a foreign country, and I loved being by myself, but now I was in a foreign country by myself and barely functioning, basically. It was very difficult. I don't know how to explain it apart from like the physical sensations that I remember, which is like my mind, my brain constantly feeling like it's burning all the time. And again, mentally, it was very, very agonizing, and I couldn't formulate sentences. And then that started affecting my friendships, because I was always this happy, cheery person, and then suddenly I'm like this person who's not functioning but has to mask, has to get around because this is a foreign country. No, it's never ending. No, it comes and goes, it comes and goes. It comes in different ways and in different manifestations. So I think as time passes, I've just learned to, through different kinds of support systems, I've learned that this is part of me now, and it will come when it wants, whenever things are not right, or it might come whenever it wants to come. What has happened in the last year is that I found a new therapist, and after talking with her, this possibility of me being neurodivergent has come up. And we even did the test, and then turns out I'm autistic. I'm in the spectrum. After Canada, I had to find some kind of mental health support. And then it began with this therapist who was a specialist in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And it worked up until a certain point, but then after that point, it became a bit rigid for me, because there were a lot of worksheets in cognitive behavioral therapy. And it works, but sometimes there might be situations where it might not work for you as a person. And then I had to find another therapist. So there were like many, we had to keep looking till chance encounters with people and their connections led me to the therapist that I have now, and who I'm really happy with. And the same thing with the psychiatrist too. The psychiatrists here were very supportive, but I don't know, I think there was this frustration in our family that I was just not getting better, which is also this thing that we need to talk about. Like, there is no getting better, it's just like this up and down, and you see how you can embrace that. So I think one advice is, it might be very exhausting, but I think it is important to keep seeking support with the hope that you'll find the right kind of support at some point of time. There might be moments where you go to a therapist and you might have a very disappointing experience with that therapist or mental health professional. But the good thing is, right now in Kathmandu, there are many different pockets of mental health professionals and collectives, and it's much more diverse now. So if you keep looking, rather than quitting, saying, oh, like, this is something that no one else can understand. Basically, I'm saying if you go to a therapist and the therapist doesn't work out for you, that's okay, that's very natural. And it's very natural to keep looking for new therapists till you find the right combination. And medication is okay. You need to keep trying them out till you find the right combination as well, depending on your situation. It is a very stressful situation, yes, but I think it will be easier on the person suffering if the family members around them don't panic so much, treat it as a part of their life, and it's not something that can be fixed. And also, you know, there's this structure in Nepali society where if you're a kid, and the therapist and the parents can easily become a team. And that can be very toxic for the kid, because if the parent and the therapist are a team in a sense that they discuss the kid, and then sometimes the parent can tell, oh, your therapist told me that you need to be stronger. If the kid hears that union between the adults can be very toxic to the kid. So that has affected me many times, like where that trust has been broken. Because it is kind of a judgment, right? When you tell the parent of the kid that you're treating that the kid needs to be stronger now, it is a judgment. And that can easily seep into my relationship with my parent in the way they perceive me. Often, people who are suffering from mental illness are cornered off as people who need to be fixed. But
we need to start looking at more towards what needs to change out there in the society and be a bit more kinder to ourselves, because whatever we're responding is towards what's out there. So I think if we start thinking about what we need to change out there, rather than saying, oh, I need to fix myself, how I'm responding is not right, then like maybe a new window will open, because then it's not our fault. We're not the ones who need to be fixed. So we need to maybe start breaking that a little. Like, we're all in the same racket with different complications. So.
Hello everyone, namaste. My name is Srijana, your moderator for this session. Hi, there's my husband as well. I'm mostly known for my socio-political activism, but right now I wear a different hat. I wear a hat of mental health advocate. I've been initiating Monday for Mental Health, a peer support group, since 2019, and by that identity I come here. And I would also like to invite all our panelists for today, distinguished Matrika sir, Prathama ji, Srijana ji, and Dr. Kedar. So, unlike how panel discussion mostly is organized in Nepal, where a moderator or facilitator asks this question one by one, and it looks like an interview, I will try my best to make it a discussion, a thorough discussion, and let it on the flow. And to begin with, I would like Matrika ji to share his own lived experience, what he's been working on, and give his brief introduction, and will be followed by Prathama ji, Srijana ji, and Dr. Kedar. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Matrika, and I have also experienced mental distress. So it was around age 15. So there are many reasons. And I felt sad most of the time. And so that gradually also affected my sleeping and appetite. Then it became a problem. So, and even, to know about that problem, it took roughly 10 years. I had to wait until I was age of 25. So like, what I used to feel is that I'm the only one human suffering like this. But afterward, I realized that it's the issues of every individual, every human being can feel so distressed. And so then I realized that, so we have to speak up and we have to say to the public, so what I'm feeling, that there are other people who are feeling also like that, and it's okay to feel like that. And also that the taboo stigma, so for that, so people who have experienced this have to come together and have to shout and speak against stigma and discrimination. And somehow that my passion and came as an organization courses. We registered in 2008. Then where one of the, in the video that you listen, Kamala. So I'm so proud that because of that, my life experience. And about this, my diversities, and it also has beauties. So I'm trying to embrace fellow brother and sister. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Can you share the mic?
Hi, everyone. My name is Prathama, and I'm a developmental psychologist by training, which basically means that I mostly work with children and young people. I also later on trained in some therapies that related to trauma in particular. So I also work with adults in that, in the respect of, with regards to trauma. I have been I'm from India, from the city called Hyderabad, and this year actually I've lived longer in Kathmandu than in Hyderabad. So, you know, it's been 12 years since I've been here. And I've been working for different organizations as a consultant or in mental health mainly, and working with children and families. And I also consult with kids, families. Yeah, that's my work. I guess area of interest or particular passion is disability and children and young people living with disabilities and their mental health. So yeah, I guess that much from me.
Hello, good evening everyone. I'm Srijana Adhikari. I'm a clinical psychologist, and currently I'm working in the first adolescent unit in Nepal in mental hospital Lagankhel. As of my academic background, first I did nursing and I was working as a nurse in a hospital, and at that time I was working with children and adolescents, and at that time I would say cases admitted in the ward, they would have fainting episodes, right? And they would faint for no other medical reason, and the psychologist at that time and psychiatrist would come and they would talk to the patient for hours and hours, and I was amazed how they are going to treat them, and that's how my interest aroused to psychology and mental health. And then I changed my profession, so I switched from nursing to psychology. And apart from that, when I was working in a hospital, my father suffered from depression after his retirement. So that really affected me, and I really thought that I need to be in mental health and help people like others. So that's how I came into the mental health. And currently, I'm basically working with children and adolescents. So my special interest is in children and adolescent mental health. Yeah, so yeah, that's it for now.
Namaste everyone, my name is Kedar Maharatta. I'm a psychiatrist by my training, but since nearly 10 years, last 10 years, I moved away from clinical practice to public health, public mental health. Currently I work for WHO, World Health Organization, country office for Nepal, supporting Ministry of Health and Government of Nepal on taking mental health services closer to the community. So pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished panelists. So to begin with our discussion, I would like to ask Matrikaji to shed some light on how actually the Nepalese community, the Nepali society perceive mental health issues, and then we'll later on discuss about the differentiation between mental health issues and mental health disorders. So does this all belong in the mental health itself, or these have some varieties in its word as well?
Thank you. I'd like to speak from my lived experience. So what I realize is that inherited stigma, so like while kids and the parents are talking about, and also from neighborhood communities, and mental health are, is like, in Nepal, like when I was a kid, like Centurachi. Mental health means Centurachi. And current, the thing is inherited stigma and misconception. So that is the main problem. So, and also among the professional and people surrounding, it's not their fault. But because of it passes from generation to generation, people have different opinion, attitude, and perception for people who are with psychological challenges. So I think that's the main problem, the taboo inherited. So in my understanding, like mental health means not mental illness only. And while talking about mental health, and I consider like it's feeling low, up, or you can be sad, nervous, paranoid. Those are part of human being. And so like day and dark night, it passes. So I also go through the low, and mainly my problem is when I have problem, I go to low. So I wait for that. And like the dark and light comes like day, like it comes and goes. So mental health is beyond the mental illness. And also that it is very important that the promotion and prevention of mental well-being, like our lifestyle, our dieting, like how much we are cautious for our physical health, immunization from, from mother home. So like mental well-being also should be treated from the mother home, like how mother healthy, and like that also it need to be promote mental well-being. So now that like it last 20 years, and like, so there has been some awareness and about mental illness. But I think that for all of us that we have to highlight about mental well-being for all, and not just mental illness. And also if we have mental health problem, and it is absolutely treatable, manageable. The only thing, the thing is, in my experience, if person suffer with mental health issues, but rather than health condition, 10 times more, the person have to suffer from surrounding, the perception, communities, and discrimination. So I think that the well-being is part prevention, promotion, and curative part also, we need to look in holistic ways, and the problem is rather than treating that individual, that also needed, but 10 times more, we have to work against the barrier and misconception in the community surrounding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matrikaji. Connecting to what Matrikaji just shared, Prathamaji also works in a very delicate issue with people with disability and their mental health itself. And you've had so much experience in Nepal itself. So can you also share some of your experiences on people with disability and their mental health in context to Nepal, how it is perceived, and what kind of surrounding, what kind of environment do we have in Nepal that makes it more difficult or easier? Thank you.
Okay. Is this working? Yes. No? Where to start? I think we were talking earlier a little bit about the idea of disability itself, right? Like the way in which I think about it is that the disability is not within an individual, but it's an environment that is disabling. So if we made environments according to the diversity of human beings that exist in the world, then there wouldn't exist disabilities, right? Like, so, but that's how I look at it, and that's how I perceive the world and people who experience disabilities. So I would say it's disabled by the environment, not by something that I experience, right? And so when you look, you can, I mean, I look at it like that, and many of us here might look at it like that. But in the world out there, like this idea of someone being disordered, you know, which, or something being, some kind of difference being pathologized to become an illness, for example. Those kind of things, which means that people with disabilities are perceived in a certain way. They're either perceived as not being able to do certain things, or perceived as, for example, could be also being really inspirational if they do something, right? Like the expectations are on this sort of extreme spectrum of things. And these things are everywhere. They're in all our heads, and they're all around us, and they affect everyone, right? So I believe that it's that attitude or that perception that actually affects people's mental health. You know, it's not because they experience a condition themselves, right? So in that sense, I don't think that Nepal is any different really from, honestly, I mean, the rest of the world. Like, I think we still need to go a very long way in terms of how we think about disabilities, and that we think about planning of anything with the idea of the diversity of the human condition, right? We're not there yet at all, nowhere. So, I mean, I don't know if, yeah, I think that access to services is difficult in Nepal. Access to inclusive education services, access to support services, access to people who can provide those support services or centers that provide support services. I think those kind of things are difficult and still developing. I mean, it's, you know, so much, like there's so many more organizations and people and schools who are doing this than like 12 years ago when I first came here. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, I think that answers your questions. Is that okay?
Talking about access, our audience would also like to know more about how accessible is counseling, and mostly to children and adolescents, and are our schools in Nepal accessible and inclusive in regards to mental health?
Okay, it's a big question, right? So first, coming to the accessibility of services, we know that it's not accessible to all the population of Nepal, because the services available are mainly centered in the city and some of, in major cities. And again, the human resources is very limited, including psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors. They are very limited. So it's really hard to find the service provider first, right? And when coming to counseling services, again, it's really hard, or I do not know how to explain it. There are different levels of professional, but finding out the best person is very challenging, right? So when it comes to child and adolescent mental health and school mental health or school counselor, again, it's more limited, right? As I'm working in the child and adolescent unit in the country, which was established in 2015 with the support from foreign organization in collaboration with the Nepal government. Till now, we are providing only outpatient services in Kanti Children's Hospital. And just this year in October, we started its extension in the mental hospital Lagankhel, and I'm working there. And from last 2 months, we have been providing inpatient services for adolescent only. So that means now we have started to provide intensive psychological services for limited adolescents. So we have the capacity of only 12 beds. So currently we are functioning with 9-10 beds. So you can see the amount of service that we are providing. According to the last census, it is said that around 40% child population, children below 18 constitute around almost 40% of the Nepal's population. But the services just limited to few beds and few clinic, only 2 clinic, right? So this is very limited. And the next question about the school mental health and the inclusive mental services. I hope many of you are aware of it. The level of awareness in the school is very limited, and we can see that few schools within the Kathmandu Valley, they have recruited psychosocial counselors. So for thousands of students, they have only 1 school counselor, so you can assume how quality service they can provide. And further, the counselors are not trained to handle all kinds of issues, right? That is another challenge for giving services. And inclusive, I would say no, right? Once the child is labeled as having some kind of mental health issue, it is considered as a kind of disability, and they believe that it exists always, even the child is trying to coming out from that situation. So it's due to stigma, and they are discriminated. So it exists in the school. So it's really challenging. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Srijana. Thank you, Srijana. as a moderator, this would be my last question, because in the beginning I myself said it would not be like a question and answer session, but it's looking like a question and answer session. The last question would be, Dr. Kedar, you've worked with the government with regards to making policies and developing different strategies for mental health sector in Nepal. And we've already discussed so many challenges. So my blunt question would be, has there been any progress made for the policies or programs in regards to mental health from the side of the government for increasing accessibility in counseling or any mental health related services in Nepal?
Okay, thank you. If I compare, let's say, what was there maybe 10 years back to now, there is some progress. To be very precise, but at the same time, is it working for you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But at the same time, is it adequate? No. So is it progressing as well as it should? No. So these are relative kind of questions. But at the same time, to give you a few examples of how, as we work very, very closely with Ministry of Health, how Ministry of Health is looking at it is they have now a strategy, National Mental Health Strategy and Action Plan, which was endorsed fairly recently, 2020, and then they went on to include mental health as one of the basic health rights, basic health services. So it's been included. Now mental health appears in a lot of policy level discussions now in the Ministry of Health work plans, and different programs, different training packages, task sharing approaches with the aim to integrate mental health into general health care has happened. Now we are gradually advancing the discussion to expand the scope to, let's say, mental health needs of mothers, maternal mental health, child mental health, and then the mental health needs of elderly, dementia, Alzheimer's. So it's expanding gradually, but at the same time, there is a lot that needs to go in terms of making it meaningful. When I say that we have done so much, but when you go and pick up somebody in the street and ask what do they think, and then the gap is there. So in terms of making it like meaningful and very visible in terms of changes in service availability, we are far way to go, but the progress is coming in the right direction. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And about the mental health issues itself, how does the society or how does the public perceive any news or any new information related to mental health, how our media outlet share about the news related to any mental health issues? Has there been any kind of guidelines as such to make them aware, look, this is not the right way to share something of this sensitive? Is there anything?
Again, there is a lot that needs to go on in terms of the public awareness of mental health. For example, if you feel low, and then if you continue to feel low for so many days, then does it occur to you that, okay, this is a real problem and I need to seek support? Many times it doesn't. Many times, as you hear from the testimonies, person living with them, they are blamed, they feel that, even person themselves feel that may not be real. There are a lot of trust issues, it comes with it. So many times they are not aware of it. Particularly in our society, as you can see, rather than feeling sad, we internalize so much in our emotion that we start feeling like headache, pain in the body, etc., etc. So we still need to work a lot around creating awareness about emotion, recognizing emotion, identifying correct emotion, and then expressing emotion. So this is still there. And then it is then linked to a lot of spiritual, supernatural, magical, religious thing that oftentimes people then even if they are brave enough to seek help, then they are not likely to get into the right help. So there are a lot of issues around identification and then challenging the help to correct direction, I would say.
Yeah, maybe Srijana, you could also add something.
Yeah, I think he addressed most of the things. Yeah, main thing is, again, it comes to the mental health literacy among the general people, right? So even if they know that something is wrong, the first point of contact might be the faith healers, right? They go to the faith healer, they spend months and months doing rituals, and things gets worse further. So that is the situation. So yeah, that's why we need to work a lot on mental health literacy. And as you talk about the guidelines for reporting news, and 2 days ago a major event happened, and the media is sharing the things without considering any guidelines. So that might affect the people badly. So yeah.
Could you also share what kind of effect does it create to the readers when they read about any kind of suicide-related news or any kind of other, news related to severe mental health issues?
Yeah, it depends on person, right? It depends on how you perceive something. For example, if you are going through some mental health issues, if you are feeling low, that issue might affect you badly. And for some, it can be a kind of learning how they can commit suicide or something like that. For some, some might show empathy to the family and something like that. So it depends on the person. So that's why we need to be very sensitive about reporting such news, especially the media. Yeah, that sensitivity needs to be built on, but I don't think it has been there. Yeah.
Can I come in a little here? No, this is very, very important. Media being part of the society, the discussion what happens in media also reflects what society in general thinks about mental health. So, and then particularly the very sad incidents such as suicides, reporting in media has a direct effect. But especially when a famous person dies by suicide and then it's reported in the media, sensationalizing it, and then oftentimes keeping it as a solution. For example, it's very famous, somebody discussed about SLC, our 10th standard exam. Until a few years back, a lot of suicides been linked to failure into exams, such as the 10th exam. So it then gives a kind of a solution to a lot of people who are struggling with mental health problem. Hey, failure and then suicide is a solution. So the media has a very important role to caution reporting suicides and not like presenting it as a simple solution to a problem, but rather it's a part of a mental health problem, and if you seek help, it gets better, and directing a lot of people suffering from similar thoughts to a correct services. So in that regard, the media reporting has been one of the risk factor for a copycat suicide, what we call it. And then we have recently done a media guideline and also engaging with the Federation of Journalists, etc., in terms of building their capacity on how to take caution and reporting on the incidents such as suicides.
Yeah.
No, I just had maybe a slightly different point to add to that, right? Like I've heard from, say, survivors of suicide or people who are talking about it or thinking about it, let's say, right? Like that more than the fact of reporting that someone died by suicide itself, it is about how it's done. It's the stigma within the reporting. It's the way in which it is done that's actually disturbing. It's not to not talk about someone who died by suicide, right? Like, yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up and to bring that. Yeah, I mean that sensitivity in the way in which you talk about it.
Do you have something to add on this?
I like to share, especially about mental health situation. I think I agree that quality services, not quantity. And for example, one of the issues that we are highlighting is an license among therapists. And you know that how are the courses here? And how much practical are they? And how is licensing system? So for me, I'm still looking if there any licensed therapist, so I can go and ventilate all my distress. So one of the thing is, and one is there should be ethically binding, and other is legally binding. So we having the therapist not legally binding, and not well practical training. So there need to be improved, and not just quantity that has been increased. And also we have to admit that, so, and coming last 10 years, none of any mental health professional has been aided in the government mental health system. And same number of psychiatrists even now. And there hasn't been any psychologist, social worker, psychiatric nurse recruited for the last 10 years. So it's very traditional, and there hasn't been new paradigm shift. And my understanding, also traveling to different countries, and so while going through the mental health treatment support, it should be multidisciplinary. And see that for the general population, and so the government system hasn't adopted, Lok Seva, not any psychiatric nurse, and none of psychology, social worker. So like we have to see the government system, it's not multidisciplinary. And you know that, so in mental health treatment, no laboratory or MRI, but human resources are very crucial. So even for diagnosis, we have to look from multiple holistic perspective, like that. And now the mental health system in Nepal and have to adopt multidisciplinary approach, and that hasn't been it. So somehow, so there are like the professional, but brain drain and private practice. So we like, even there are many things. Even we have reached to Supreme Court and for prioritizing mental health within the health system. But so frustrating, even we are waiting the hearing from Supreme Court for the last 4 years, that we are asking to the Supreme Court, Ph.D. to the government, that the government should prioritize mental health within the health system. And it should be prioritized, and also mental health is not just health issues, but social protection and employment, housing. So mental health also have to be linked with other ministries. So there need to be a high-level mechanism that integrate within the health and also coordinate with other disciplines. So I think somehow like quantity, but quality. So I'm also like, I'm privileged to speak here like myself. So I would also like to appeal you, all of you, how can we go to government together? And how can we have combined our voice for the betterment to the government system? And also, I would like to encourage and challenge all of you also, not just this time we're talking here. So we also, from as a person, individual, citizen, as a, educated, so I'm looking for, like the, working together, who have really like passion, and, who like to also like to be join with us, join together. Like I like to join, not just join with me, and for speaking up for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matrikazi. Matrikazi highlighted quite pressing issues about the licensing system and the role of government to prioritize mental health itself, psychosocial issues as well. With this, not only government, each individual should also prioritize their mental health. And most of us, I say most of us because I sometimes do it myself as well, we firstly consult Google Doctor and then self-diagnose ourselves. And then when Google gives us the idea of severity to what we are facing, then only we try to reach to someone in person. So giving this context, I would like to ask our distinguished panelists about this pressing issue. When should one feel, when should one know that the person is not doing okay and reach out for help? What is that sign for reaching out to someone? And when I say someone, most of us directly reach out to the psychiatrist in the very early phase. So when should one reach out to psychiatrist and one reach out to counselor before the psychiatrist? Or we can reach out to whoever we like to, whoever we are near to. So I would like to start this with Prathama. Yeah.
Can we start with Srijana? Because I don't know how to answer this question. No, I mean, I think it's actually a difficult question because I find that it's very hard to tell as an other person when someone must get support, right? Like, but I think what I feel is important is when people feel that there are big changes in the way in which they are going through life or functioning in life, right? That at that point they seek support. And that the support also not necessarily be a medical professional or a therapist or a counselor, right? But tell someone, you know, I think that's the first step, which also in terms of the stigma, in terms of just us talking about, you know, not feeling so great and that being okay to talk about. I think that's really what I would say is important. And then when we do that more, then we understand when we need other kinds of support, perhaps, you know. Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, so adding to the point that Prathama highlighted, first, all of us should consider that it's okay not to be okay, right? And we need to be aware of that. I'm not okay now. Then take a courage and just share with anyone whom you trust. Maybe it's your parents, your friends, or any professionals, and especially the mental health professional. As Ranju highlighted, whether I should go to the counselor or psychiatrist, I cannot say whether in what situation you go to whom. But first, when you feel that if you are not okay, your sense of subjective well-being is very important. So when you sense that I'm not okay, and when you have difficulties to maintain your daily functioning, then consult any kind of mental health professional first. Then they will direct whom to go. Maybe it may be psychosocial counselor, psychologist, clinical psychologist, or psychiatrist. So we should not make a dilemma first, because the awareness and the right point, right time, and finding a right person is very difficult. So the professional will guide you when to go, whether you need medication or therapy or counseling. So first, just be courageous to open about your mental health. That's it.
Dr. Kedar, I will just add some other points so that you can just elaborate. We also saw in the video that most of the male didn't want to speak about it. And it's most common in Nepalese society as well, because men are tough, you know, men are unqualified to shed tears or act like they're feeling weak. So it's very common in Nepal as well. So I'm just requesting you to have that context as well while you're answering this.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think we should not wait when should we seek help. As long as you think that I might need help is the time you seek help, one. But when you say we seek help, it means that all of us will be, somebody will be seeking help with all of us, right? So what do you do when some of your close friend ask, and hey, I'm not feeling well. Hey, I'm feeling very, very sad these days. Hey, don't be weak. Be strong, man, come on, you can do it. Girl, you can do it, you are strong, I find you very strong. You know, that's kind of very quick, even without spending like 10 seconds to listening what people want to share with you. We are quick in making judgment and giving our advices. So while it takes a lot of courage to seek help, as we all can understand, but at the same time, we as somebody we love somebody, we have equal responsibility to be there and listen and provide a safe space, we call it, and don't judge and quick in advice. We know we have, like, sometimes we have ups and downs, we discuss about night and day and all, emotion comes and goes. When we know that, and then when we have, like, most of the time ability to decide for ourselves, all people want is be there, listen, and then give them time to solve their problem. So that is also important. When somebody comes to seek help, it is equally important for us as somebody seeking help to be very responsive to their need. On men's health, it's very, very important. Particularly, it's universal almost, but also in our community, certain gender identity is given to men, or also to women. Women, you have to bear, you shouldn't express, you have to tolerate. But for men, you are like strong, and this is a sign of weakness. You can't cry, and this and that. So these are all social stereotypes related to emotion and problem with emotion that hinders help seeking. So these are, the conversation like this one, out in the community talking, and then the young ladies sharing about their feeling, and thank God we have Matrika, who also, being a man, who also talks about his mental health. So we have now people talking about it, and talking more and more on forum like this in open and community and public spaces helps reducing the stigma and breaking the barriers. So.
Thank you so much. About breaking the barrier, or let's say breaking the stigma or taboo, or destigmatizing this whole scenario, let us focus on this topic. How can we as a panelist or moderator, we as people in the audience, work to destigmatize mental health itself? I think we should focus this topic as one of our discussion right now. I'll start from Matrikaji.
Thank you. In my experience, it's inherited stigma. So we have to start from the new generation, like for the children and parent. And that, like what we used to grew up, that, like mental health, as the taboos, ... So I think that the most important is through new generation, and also talking about, and can be mentally, physically distressed, like human beings have mental and physical integrities, and it's okay. And I think that the best way is to starting from the new generation. Like my understanding, like while the community I grew up, and if I wouldn't have the first-time mental health problem myself, and I would also feel same like my other fellow brother and sister from the neighborhood. Because I think it's very important to start from new generation about talking about good mental well-being rather than illness, according to my understanding.
I think the first thing for me is, like I was saying earlier, right? Like to make it okay to talk about it, and to not, I think sometimes we, with certain kinds of knowledge that we may have about mental health also, sometimes when we are listening to people, we can feel a bit scared about what they are going through. Or I think it was somebody in the video, no, the musician who was saying it can be very intense to talk about, you know, and Irina also from the film was talking about how it is actually us responding to something that's happening in the world. And that is, in a sense, a way in which I look at it, right? Like that, that we experience these things also because we are responding to things that are happening in the world. And very often it happens because of discriminations, because we experience injustices, because we are not treated right or teased, or I guess I'm talking especially in the context of children and young people a lot. So, you know, and the, whoa. And the not embracing this diversity of the human condition, right? Like, so I would really check those things in our heads, actually, about what do we perceive as not normal, quote unquote, you know, and what judgment do we bring to people's ways of being that is just part of human diversity, right? Like, so yeah. I will say that much.
Thank you, Prathama. First, Srijana, I would also like you to answer. Because you work mostly with children and adolescents, at what point of time should parents and teachers be concerned when their children and you know, adolescent kids are not doing well and they need some kind of support? At what particular point or with what sign they should be more concerned? I would just want you to add that with the following question as well.
Okay, coming to the first question that we have been discussing, for me, I think we all have certain misconception about the mental health, right? Because of those misconceptions, people are not free to talk about it. For example, people have misconception that once you have mental health issues, it's not curable. It will be always there for your lifetime, right? People with mental illness are like mad. They are unpredictable. They might harm other people, right? They have certain kind of other misconception, like it's because of some supernatural power, witchcraft, like so many misconceptions are there. And another major misconception is once you start taking the medication for mental health problem, you have to take for years and years. So because of all this misconception, people with mental illness are stigmatized more in our society. So first we need to break those misconceptions. Mental health is curable. The one and only important thing is we need to identify as soon as possible and start the treatment. The early we can identify, the progress is better. So we need to focus on early identification and treatment. That is one thing. And all mental illness are not, all people with mental problems are not like mad. So there are only 1% of people with mental illness, what we call psychotic illness. They are quite unpredictable. They might have disorganized behavior. Remaining other mental illness are like anxiety, depression, which are curable. And people taking medication with anxiety and depression can function for years and years, as people with hypertension can function for years and years with the support of medication. So we need to have we need to equate the mental health with medical illness, right? It's like a cardiac problem. Mental problem is like a neurological problem. So we need to break those misconceptions. So first, we need to work on that to reduce the stigma. And obviously, we need to be, the society need to be inclusive. We should not destigmatize. We should not discriminate the people with mental illness. That is a general thing. And coming to the child and adolescent mental health, the first, how parents should recognize if their children are doing well or not. As I said, first indicator is their functioning. So as a child or adolescent, their function is to be regular at school, to learn something on a daily basis. That means they can see the indicators of their academic progress, right, and their social interpersonal relationship, how they are functioning with peers, with family members. So if they see some kind of problem in these indicators of their daily functioning, they should be concerned, right? And other thing is the change in their behavior. For example, the child is just spending a lot of time in the gadgets, do not want to talk with anyone in the family, do not go out to play with a friend, refuses to go to the school. So any kind of behavioral changes that you have observed, then you need to be concerned. So we should not ignore those changes in emotions and behaviors. So this is the crucial point to seek mental health support for child and adults and mental health.
I have a little different perspective here on stigma. Two things. I just highlighted that the more you share, then the more it normalizes. We have a lot of examples that people with mental health problem leading a meaningful life. We have Matrika ji here. He is dealing with his mental health problem, but he is a leader, mental health advocate, and then he's doing a lot. So that gives us a lot of hope that even with a mental health problem, I can live a life. That's a part. Another thing is what community thinks is many times informed by health, me being included there. Many times when you have a problem and go into the health facility, many times even the health care providers provide a lot of misleading, stigmatizing information. Remember the story, there is a dyad of a provider and a parent. So what parent think probably is indirectly informed by health, knowingly or unknowingly. Then it helps the community to make a lot of beliefs around mental health problems. So as a healthcare providers, there is a tremendous kind of role to play in whatever we're saying, in making people aware that mental health, it's okay to have mental health problems, just like any other problem. Most of the time you get better with some help or a little bit of help. Sometimes you get better with few months, years of medications, and then you'll be fine. But in certain conditions you may need to deal with your mental health problem but still lead a meaningful life. So there is a lot of it's responsibility for a care provider, mostly health, but also social care provider, wherever the community come into interface, then as a provider you have a role to do that. So I just wanted to also give this perspective here.
Thank you. I would like to share one of the things is we have Anti-Discrimination Act. If someone hate or stigmatize me because of my diversity, so like even there is legal provision that I can file that to the court in Nepal. So perpetrator will be sentenced to 3 to 9 month prison and 30,000 to 90,000, like that. What we are doing is we are reaching to all the countries and different provinces and collecting the people with these diversities and also telling them that you are right holder and legal provision that if someone stigmatizes you and intentionally, and so we are also also sensitizing about the Anti-Discrimination Act that is in Nepal, that people we can speak up against the perpetrator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matrikaji. Now we'll have a last round of discussion on probably one of the popular quote that most of us have read in our health subject, that is, prevention is better than cure. So is mental health problem preventable? Can we prevent mental health, and how can we prevent mental health? I'll start from Matrikaji.
Oh, thank you. So unfortunately, I have decided to advocate, not as a therapist, but I get contact with so many people, and even though I have deactivated Facebook because I cannot deal that, my limitation. One of the person called me, and her husband having some problem. And as a relative, she called me, and she told me, "Tai, where is the best psychiatrist? Because my husband is not able to sleep for a month, more than a month." Then I asked her, "Hey, what happened during last 1 month? Has there something happened during your family dispute, something?" And then I questioned that. Then afterward, then they started talking about that. Later on, we found that his mother was living with an younger brother, with an younger son. And so there was something dispute among daughter-in-law. So mother has left the son house, she has gone to other daughter house. And that's the one, my relative. And the wife is my cousin. And then the man asks wife, "Hey, what happened to mother?" And then, "Shall we bring here?" Then the lady told him, "Oh, if that daughter-in-law, and couldn't please, I also cannot please." And then the man was speechless. Then he couldn't depend with anything, with his wife, nor with his brother. So later on, then I facilitated that their two brothers and in-laws, and they sat together with their sister, and they sorted out. And in that time, they were like telling that, "Hey, where is the best psychiatrist?" And so, in my experience, it is many of the mental health problems are causing from the societies, and the problem is not with the person. So we need lots of social worker in the societies who deal with the problem, target system, not with a coming person, but where is the root causes of the problem. So for a lot of mental health problem prevention, we need to work the case worker dealing with, challenging with this problem. So I could prevent that person to go to medication. Likewise, there are many cases. Every day, many people call me and ask something, and raising some questions within them. And there is problem also they have, and also I found that all of them also they have the solution. This is also a kind of intervention.
I was listening to you so intently, I forget what I was going to say. I think earlier we were talking, and you were saying how it's about wellness, and that prevention is something that's important to you, right? And I so completely agree, because I do think that we must focus more on the wellness aspects of things. And since I work with children, young people, and that's what I love to do, I really think that schools and the education system is a really good place to start from looking at it from this preventative perspective, because it's about having this social emotional understanding of my ways of being. It's understanding that this whole range of emotions are part of being human, and normalizing all of that, right? It's not the emotion that I experience that's not okay. It's if I harm someone with it, that it's not okay, no? And that kind of education for children in schools, having access to, of course, talking to a counselor, but even more than that, just having these conversations in a classroom, just social emotional learning, I think that is important for all young people, and to grow up in ways where they learn to speak about what they are experiencing, that is normalized, and they can ask for help when they need it, and they know where to get that support and help, So for me, those are the main aspects that I would advocate for, that I think we should talk to kids about, whether it's happening in the school or not. Yeah.
Okay, so coming to the prevention of mental health. First, I would like to share how we understand the causes of mental illness or mental health problem. So, we believe that mental health problem is caused by either biological, psychological, or social factors. So, combination of these three factors is very important in someone's life for having mental health issues or not. Right? If someone has biological vulnerability, for example, if there is a family history of mental illness, obviously they are vulnerable. And for that person, if there are a lot of social challenges like Patrika ji shared, and if the person's way of coping with the stresses, because stress is inevitable in our life, every day we are struggling with our stress. And if that person is coping in a bad way or ineffective way with the stresses, or his different personality traits, or the way he perceives the problem and deals with the problem, might determine whether the person is going to have mental health problem or not. So, and other thing, different social factors which are out of our control, and for to have a supportive social structure, we need to do a lot of system levels of work. Right? So these three factors are very important. So for the preventive work, from our individual level, right, what we can do, how we can deal with the stresses of our life, it's very important. So if we teach children from very young is how, as ma'am shared, like how they can have social emotional literacy, how they can deal with the stresses of their life, how they can express their emotions, and how they can seek support when they are in a difficult situation. So if we can start teaching them from very early age, as we teach like hand washing from early age, or reproductive health, right? So if we can teach them, it will help to prevent mental health problem to a certain level. And obviously other things, the social level of work is important to prevent and promote mental health. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the fellow panelists here. But again, this whole concept of prevention and cure is putting blame on an individual. The problem is with him. We have to cure him, or you have to prevent him to get from that, right? So when you talk about social, it's a social issue. Matrikaji doesn't agree with that. Matrikaji doesn't agree that the problem lies only with him. He thinks that the problem lies with all of us outside. So the prevention of what is an issue? Prevention of him experiencing depression, or prevention of all of us behaving badly to him is a discussion. So all this prevention and cure is all medical in its frame. We can certainly prevent tuberculosis. We can certainly probably prevent polio. But I would not think we will equally prevent having a mental health problem. So the focus should then put away from an individual having a mental health problem to the community behaving well on a mental health problem. So prevention should then go to out there, not an individual, but then society to behave well, to prevent them from abuse, to prevent them from misbehave, to prevent them from expelled from jobs. So it's whole social issue, and then the dynamic, the thinking should be away from an individual. We discussed a lot about biopsychosocial, again pointing to an individual experiencing it. Okay, he has a stressor, that's why he developed it. So this doesn't help too much in terms of in mental health work. So the focus should shift from an individual to a societal attitude and barrier. That way, even if we have a problem, then we have a society who is responsive to the different needs of an individual, and then be helpful. So just again a different angle to the story here.
Thank you so much, our distinguished panelists. Now I open the floor for the question. If we have any, you may raise your hand, and our friend will hand over the mic to you. We have a question at the end row. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm Arun. Yeah, it's a very good discussion that my whole thinking has been shifted when I listen you guys, you know. As we are the society to make disabled, more disabled, and then they wouldn't be able to do their own personal work. So if we detect mental health issues in our children, that because of COVID, and then also like work from home, and also virtual education system has been emerged in our country as well, and then more our children and ourselves, we put lots of our time into the gadgets and all that stuffs. So yeah, mental health issue is like a fire in the bush. Like sometime, some later it will be the would be without our control. And my question is, how do we transform ourselves when we detect, when we identify something like mental health issues in our children, and even ourselves? So first I was thinking that how can we treat and build a trust with our children who have gone through the mental health issues. But for now, my question is, how do we transform ourselves to build a trust with someone so that we can provide some advice in early stage in our home and ourselves, and then also linking with the psychosocial counselor, something like that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arunji. Do we have other questions as well? We'll take the questions and then go on to the answers.
I can give you just direct to the point question. It's a long question. Okay, it's a quite long question, so I'm going to read it out because I just noted it. So we know that distinguished roles and responsibilities between men and women passed on by various generations make them react to certain things differently, right? So, and it also leads to toxic masculinity in men, which makes them not be able to speak up and express themselves fully in the society. And it also provides a fear for them to be vulnerable. And as a society, what are the things that we can do, not just them as an individual, but we as people, to understand them, as well as make them feel safe to feel vulnerable in the society, to be able to express themselves?
Can we take 2 questions at a time, and then we'll come again for the next round, okay? So for the first question of Arunji, I would like any of the panelists to address the question. Yeah, Srijana.
I think his questions is related to how the parents should behave with the children, because after COVID-19 pandemic, we started using a lot of gadgets, and everything is in the screen, right? So first, I think as a parent, we should be a model, right? In many family, we see that parents are spending a lot of time in their gadgets, and they just tell their children that, okay, you go and read, or you go out and play, right? And there is no one to play, or there is no one to guide in the study. Then what the child will do? Again, he will also start craving for the gadget, because it's really stimulating, and in a way it's a way of coping with the stress, right? Because there he can see whatever he or she can see, whatever he or she likes, right? It's a kind of distraction for the moment, but when it continues, it becomes a habit, and it's really difficult to change, right? That's why first, parents should be a role model. So if we want our child not to use the gadgets for many hours, we should be model. And next, as a parent, we have, actually, it's our responsibility to give a quality time, to spend quality time with our child, right? Because we are so busy with our one work and being successful in our professions, and we are so much oriented in our career, we have hardly few hours to spend with our child, right? And we do not talk with them. So there is a significant lack of communication between parent and child. That's why children do not trust their parents and dare to share their difficult experiences. So it's very important to have daily conversations. So we say that please spend quality time with your child. Maybe half an hour is enough. half an hour per day is enough. But just be with your child and share your experience and listen to the child experience daily. That builds a trust on parents and facilitates the open parent-child communication, because communication is key. So if your child is open to share his experience when he or she has some difficult experience, let's say someone bullies her at his school, then in the evening she can come and she can share on the same day. So it helps to prevent the problem until it gets worse. So communication is the key. So I would just highlight that part.
Thank you so much, Srijana. Also, I think Arunji also mentioned something about transforming oneself if they find in difficult position. So I would like Matrikaji to address.
So in my experience, the ego of the parent, like I am the adult, and having the hierarchies, and that's the main problem. I think each parent should be, should consider the child as an adult, and and also. In my experience, majority of these psychological distress are from the root causes are not with the person, but from the surrounding, and how unconditionally and we spend time with them and be together, and also fight with our child to fight among barrier. Like for me, for example, so I like to make it briefly. So. In class 9, so I was in events, and then, so while I had to sit with the other colleagues, so I didn't feel easy with that person, and means something chemistry or something. I felt like maybe that was not intentional, but I felt bad with that person. And then, and that time, like, I didn't have courage to talk in this school. I didn't have courage to talk with a parent. And after, in grade 10 also, because our height was similar, I had to sit with that person. And then, because there was a safe space, that if there would be safe space, I could go to class teacher, if I could talk to my parent, that if my seat would have been changed, then I didn't have to, quit my life and, so long, suffering. So like, I think that, so children should have unconditional safe space with parent as a friend, and also we must also fight with our child with their barrier they are facing.
Also, I was just wondering, in our audience, how many of you are parent here? Okay, so how many of you do to your parent? We used to a lot of beating, like in the name of discipline. We kind of in the name of disciplining. There is still a practice. Now the movement is not to beat, but then only do this now, right? So kids face that all the time. That speaks a lot of what they are going through. I have 8-year-old at my house. We don't do that, but still, he goes to the football training, and then the football coach does this to him. So it's like it's still society as a whole belittle kids, and then discipline and hairs. So this barrier we talk about, and then this relates to speaks again in addition to what been discussed around parenting. Here we can spend like hours and hours on parenting. It's challenging, I understand. I'm going through this. It's very, very challenging, easier said than done. On gender role, I mean it's for boy, girl, child, adult, man, woman. We have different roles, different kind of assigned thing. But at the same time, it's very common that whenever, for example, if you have a male friend and who shares a bad moment in his life, again, how do we react depends on whether he will share again next week. How did you behave? If you share now and then you've forgotten, quick advice, as I said earlier, hey, you're a man, you shouldn't share, don't cry, and then you've forgotten, versus if you listen and then also check maybe a couple of days back, hey, you shared about bad moment in your life, how are you doing now? You know, that kind of being there and available to support these are individual kind of personal, interpersonal label thing that changes, and it's behavior change takes a lot of time to do. Just an example I shared here.
One last question.
Thank you so much. It has been wonderful listening to the panelists. As a father of an adolescent, again, I was thinking, I have a child who's turned into an adolescent, and the behavior that I see, the relationship that I have with my daughter, it's like it has changed drastically. So again, like in the discussion earlier, there was a lot of discussion about adolescent and how early detection is the key. And some of the behaviors that was discussed earlier was, I was thinking, adolescence is a difficult time. Like it's a phase, it's a transitional phase, and a lot of changes happening in the body. Hairs are growing everywhere. Their mental is, like brain is changing. It's a difficult time. But then, as a father, like, how do I know whether it's the bodily changes that's happening that's causing their behavior, or whether it's the mental issue? So that's something I would understand more, especially from Srijana, but others can also add.
There are two more questions. Can you please make it brief?
Thank you. My name is Sajjad. I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm really enjoying this insightful discussion. I am a recovering alcoholic and a suicide survivor, and I had been to actually both psychiatrist and therapist in Nepal, Bangladesh, USA, Cambodia. And I have seen that like addiction is kind of, from Bangladesh perspective, it's a criminal offense. But here it's a kind of a social and criminal, it's a kind of a mixture of both. And in the US or in Cambodia, it's a different story. So my question is to the panelists, it's like, I go to actually rehabs here and also in Bangladesh and see that how the addict, like people with addiction are kind of crammed in a room and all they can think of is that they're here for 6 months and after getting out of here, they'll start doing drugs or addiction. So what's the scenario here in Nepal? Because my personal experience here was that, and also with the psychiatrist, not to offend anyone else, that like, it's kind of like, when we talk about addiction, it's kind of looked down upon. It's kind of even the psychiatrist, like in Bangladesh, I remember one of my psychiatrists told me to pray 5 times a day because I come from a Muslim family. I was like, I don't believe in God, so what's my remedy? So there is a lot of misconception, and also there is no policy guideline, and I would actually ask Dr. Kedar about this. I actually, once I worked with WHO in Bangladesh, and I didn't see anything that really done in terms of treating addiction and the mental health that comes from addiction and all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll come again if there are other questions. And the third round will be the last round. I'm very sorry. Starting from how to deal with the adolescent kid. Yeah.
Okay, so first, as you have experienced, being a parent of adolescent is really challenging. You do not know what happens next day, right? Because every day they are changing, right? As you said, that it's a transitional period, and the transition not only in the physical change, they are changing emotionally, psychologically, and cognitively. So their perceptions and the way they experience emotions and they express their feelings is really changing day by day. And other thing is the adolescent, from developmental perspective, they are really looking for a sense of independence. They want to be independent as an adult. And that is one side. And on the other side, as a parent, we are really worried about our child, and we tend to protect our child from so many things. And that's why we are too much involved with our child. And to state in a simple way, it's a kind of conflict between parent and child. So we do not know what our child is expecting from us. Rather, we are just trying to what we should do for our child, right? So that's a big battle between parent and child who share with me in a clinical setting every day. So that's why I suggest parents to stay behind and always consider the age of your child. You are parenting, let's say, a 13-year child, not a 5-year kid. So that means a 13-year child can do basic things for themselves. They can do their self-care, they can follow a routine, and they can, to some extent, they can decide what is right and wrong. So as a parent, we also need to change to have a better relationship with the adults. And so I think I answered your question. And yeah, other main question, how do I know whether it's a normal changes or problem? So again, when it comes to problem, we always compare with peers, with the peers of her or his age. So if there is impairment in their functioning, if they are having significant conflict with family, peers, or teachers at the school, if they are not performing well in the academics and their behavior is changing significantly, then you need to think that something might be wrong with them. Otherwise, some fluctuations are there. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Just very quickly, actually, just to say that I think when we are talking to children or adolescents, to remember that they also have their own expertise somehow. They know how to manage, you know. And if we allow space for that, then we can hear that more. And I just want to go back to what Matrika ji was saying about this hierarchy between adults and children. And often we think we know as adults better, but children are actually so much more exposed and are the future, you know. So they are a few steps ahead of us, actually. So if we listen, if we acknowledge that maybe there are things that this young person is saying that is not the way in which I think, but maybe I should question myself the way I think, right? Like if we could do that, I think, yeah, that would actually forge better relationships with our children and young people.
Thank you, Prathama ji. And we'll go to the second question.
And also share my, again, own experience. I said I have 8-year-old. When he was 6 years old, you know, I was discussing with him and I said, it's very difficult to raise a child. And he said, really? Is it more difficult to being a child? You know, that is, so we think that it is difficult to raise a child. For them, it is very, very difficult to bear with us. So it's their perspective. They think that it's difficult being a child because all the time you have to listen to you. They can't make any decisions. So I mean, let's take ourselves as that parent. I have to do it, kind of thing, and then be them. So again, there are different angles to how people see addiction. Thank you so much for bringing that. We almost didn't discuss addiction. Everything amplifies the stigma, stereotypes, amplifies for addiction to, particularly linking addiction to a behavior, bad behavior. Then a health problem is prevalent here even in our country. And then when the problem is a bad behavior, then the remedy is punishment, right? So that's prevalent. Treatment, even with the health professionals, if you go, as I said earlier, community is a mirror of how health professionals react. And many times they give you pill just to kind of, you're okay with, to manage your withdrawal, we call it in medicine. But then you are loaded with a lot of correcting your bad behavior advices, right? So a lot needs to be done towards identifying addiction as a genuine health problem, and then it's not really a bad behavior, but it's an issue. So both practices of involuntarily locking up in a cramped up room for a certain period of time is highly prevalent here, but at the same time treatments such as methadone for opioid addictions and also for alcohol, some of the medical treatment, a little more human treatment, are also coming up. So, but then the problem prevails here. That's all I want to say now.
Thank you, Dr. Kedar. And now we're in the final round of asking questions.
I think that we'll not have time for all the questions, but still we can stay here, and people who still have questions can ask after. Okay.
Very sorry, we don't have much time for the questions now. So summing up our discussion, I think looking at all of our faces, all of the expression, I think the discussion seemed to be rich, and you can engage with our distinguished panelists in the time when we're out of this panel, having some drinks or something. Concluding this discussion today, I think I would like to highlight two major things that also was like boom for me. One is prevention is better than cure is mostly when it comes to our physical health. When it comes to mental health, preventing only with individual instinct or individual level is not enough, because sometimes it's with our toxic family, toxic office, or toxic workplace, school, or anything, but that's with the society. That's not related with us. So prevention is on very, very, very different level when it comes to mental health. Second, I think we have to have more of the panel discussions to discuss about disability and mental health. People with disability and their mental health. We had very, very less discussion on that point in this session, but I'm hopeful that we'll have more of the panel discussions in the future. Even in case of disability, we find that topic very sensitive. Yes, it is sensitive as well. But then, have we made our environment, have we made our infrastructures inclusive for everyone to call someone else that they are unable to function in such infrastructures that has been constructed with the limited viewpoint of who is able and who is disabled? Lastly, self-care is the key, and let's not do self-diagnosis, because if we do self-diagnosis, our clinical psychologists, psychosocial counselors, psychiatrists, they might have less of their jobs. So let's give them. Let's leverage them for our diagnosis, and it's okay to be not okay at times. This is the mantra for tonight. Thank you so much.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, sure.
I just because we have the opportunity here, I want to do a shout out to, as we were saying, young people, learning from them, to a very wise young person in the audience today who runs a mental health podcast called Bottom Up. Manav, say hi. And it's on YouTube. It's called Bottom Up. You should all go follow it and like it now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our distinguished panelists.
That also leads me to say that tonight was filmed, so if you want to see it again, or mostly if you want to share it with other people, it's on Alliance Française YouTube page. We also have Instagram, Facebook. So yeah, follow us, and please let's continue, enjoy and talk. Thank you, everyone.